Everybody say, walking in the favor of God. Whenever we hear the word favor, whenever we are dealing with favor, we are dealing with goodwill and acceptance and benefits that flow from being in a relationship with God. That there is acceptance. Everybody say acceptance. And there is goodwill. Everybody say goodwill. And there are benefits. Everybody say benefits that flow from being in a relationship with God. And in the previous weeks, when we were looking at our Christology, that is, when we are trying to understand who Jesus is, when we're looking at our understanding of who Jesus is, we saw that in previous weeks we dealt with the fact that Jesus dealt with himself as the Word. And the Word became flesh and dwelled among us. And then last week we talked about Jesus as now in the flesh as having temptations. And now we want to look at Jesus in his words. Because what Jesus says matters. And Jesus comes on the scene in Matthew chapter 5, and he sets the scene. And if you look at the text that is before us in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus comes on the scene telling us what benefits there are to belonging to the kingdom of God. Everybody said there are benefits to belonging to the kingdom of God. And the first thing that Jesus says, that if you are going to walk in the favor of God, favor is based on your willingness to follow him. Everybody say favor is based on my willingness to follow him. If you are not willing to follow Jesus, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime, then don't expect any benefits. And here in the text this morning, look at the text if you would. The text says in verse 1, it says, when Jesus saw the crowds, that is, that as Jesus' popularity grew, his crowds grew. God. And you got to be careful when crowds grow, because crowds don't necessarily mean you have disciples. God help me up in here. And look at the text. He went up into the mountain, and to go to the mountain is to move out of the synagogue. Jesus was a non-traditional preacher. He did things kind of radically. He did things because most rabbis would teach inside of a synagogue. But here it is. Jesus has set up church on the side of a mountain. God help me up in here. He sets up church on the side of the mountain, and he goes up to the side of the mountain, and look at the text. And after he sat down, which was the rabbinical position of most rabbis, because they sat to teach and they stood to explain things and proclaim things. But after he sat down, look at the text, his disciples came to him. Everybody say, his disciples came to him. Now, I want you to understand something, that when you are a disciple of Christ, you are a follower of Jesus Christ. You just don't follow him just because there's a crowd. You follow him because you want to learn from him. And watch the text here. His disciples came to him, and he began to speak, and he taught them, saying, and Jesus is now about to declare the blessings of God on our lives. I want you to catch these blessings here on our lives. Now, let me just help you understand something real quick before I get into this, because anytime God blesses his people, whenever God gets ready to bless his people, he bestows on them gifts in two realms. The first realm is called earthly blessings, or temporal blessings, or worldly blessings, or material blessings. When God bestows blessings, it's coming in either two realms. It's either going to be earthly or it's going to be spiritual. And what most people want, they want material blessings. They want God to open the door. They want a car. They want a new house. They want stuff they can put their hands on. But Jesus does not open up the scene with material stuff. God help me up in here now. Because see, he knows that you cannot distinguish disciples because by what they have outwardly, you got to start inwardly with disciples. Because most people will just gather around you if they know they're going to get some benefits from you. So Jesus starts inwardly with the second type of blessing, which is spiritual blessing. Everybody shout spiritual. Spiritual blessings you can't put your hand on, that you can't buy it at Macy's. You can't. It's something that's going to happen internally. It's something that God is going to do in you, and nobody's going to be able to see it. But that is the stage where God begins to bless his disciples. Watch this text now. Watch with me. Stay with me, because I want you to catch this thing, because look at what Jesus says. Jesus says that if you're going to walk in favor of God, and here's the first thing I want you to understand. When God blesses me, what I'm saying is God has favored me. God help me up in here. When you say, everybody say, when God blesses me, he has favored me. I'm walking in favor. I'm walking in goodwill. I'm walking in acceptance, and I'm walking in benefits. The benefits start following the favor. Okay. Need to be in church. Not just, I'm just going to pray because it's right to pray. No, I need to pray. Not just, I'm going to read my Bible because I just want to do this and sound religious. No, I need, when you get to that point, you have just stepped into favor. God, somebody say, I just stepped into favor. So Jesus, watch this. Only God can declare you blessed. I can't declare you blessed. Only God. And God says the moment you are poor in spirit, when you recognize you need me, I'm going to declare you blessed. I ain't changed nothing about your economics. I ain't changed nothing about your gas bill. I ain't touched nothing about your house note. I ain't changed nothing about your finances. But the moment you come to the realization, not that you just want me, but you need me, I'm about to declare you blessed. God, somebody up in here say, I'm blessed. God, help. Yeah, the favor now is on my life. And watch this. But then Jesus says, not only are you blessed when you're poor in spirit, but Jesus says, you are blessed. Blessed are those, verse 4, who mourn, for they will be comforted. Now Jesus is not talking about people who just crying because they lost somebody. When you mourn over the evil that you see in this world, when you mourn over 8-year-old boys who walking home from school in New York and get cut up and put in the refrigerator, and when you start mourning over the evil you see in this world, Jesus says at that moment you're blessed. Everybody say blessed. So blessed now. Something in this world ought to bother you. You ought not be so caught up on yourself that when you see other people suffering and other people going through pain, you can't be spiritual and not feel the pain and the agony of somebody else. Because the Bible says we weep with those that weep, and we rejoice with those that rejoice.
Thank you for tuning in to Union Grace. Join us for service at 10:30 a.m. at Union Grace Missionary Baptist Church, located at 2550 West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, Michigan.
If you would like to order this or any other sermons in series, contact us at ugpublications@uniongrace.com or call 313-894-2500 extension 16.